calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence. Wanting nothing, we practice equalism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village. Here is the after sound of love. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Amoga. Vairocana Mani Padme Jvala Pravartaya.
Please stand and ready for the process of chanting of the three Buddhas. Hold your hands together intimately. It's a whole different effect on your body. It's another way to repeat energetically towards the breath. This first version was in Sino Korean because our Shamir picture is on the altar today. He's from the mountain monasteries of South Korea. So fill your sound in with the sounds of that Sino Korean. And then I'll repeat them. refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha,
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate the heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma,
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teaching
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha,
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many,
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Oh, we're still standing. On this third day of May 2024, we acknowledge that this land where our temple buildings stand has been the home of native peoples, the Potawatomi, the Ottawa, the Ojibwe, also the Cree Tribe, and also of Black Americans in Black American neighborhood and buildings that we had Black Americans as their residents. For our own awakening and the awakening of all life, may the benevolent energies of our meditation, chanting, and full presence in this service this morning may any merit we have gained from this extend to all beings on the planet. For the deepening of our interbeing, may peace prevail and war peace. In that spirit, let us together do 3 vows in the direction of the altar and the third candle which we light before the Buddha. Again, fully present, always practicing full presence. Further, Venerable Samu Sunam's picture is on the altar because this is his birthday. So we have been so fortunate to have this person who was an orphan on the streets of Korea and came here in 1967 as practically a beggar. went to New York City, Montreal, Toronto, and then came here. So this is a day to not only celebrate his faith, but really respect his work in this country and really for the whole world. Buddha's going to read a very short piece of his teaching. So let us listen with both hearts and open ears.
This is from a Dharma talk given by Sen Sunim, possibly October 24th, 2010 in Toronto. Maybe November 1st. This Buddhism is all about wisdom and a culture of enlightenment. So there is usually this thing, Sila, Samadhi, and Prajna. Meditation practice is based upon this threefold training. The Shila, the first one, I call it ethical awakening. It is integrity. It's got to be a true person sitting in meditation. So you have to be a true and sincere person. So that is why I sometimes say your meditation practice on Sunday mornings, you set out for the temple to do your meditation practice in a group, not alone, because we share and develop methods for our practice, for our community, for our society. Why are we doing this together? So to practice, your cultivation begins at the moment you start out, the moment you leave your home to go to temple for meditation practice. This is called awakened heart. So you bring awakened heart. The first sign of awakened heart is earnest and sincere heart. Everybody has that. You can always come up with a true and sincere heart. That is the first sign you are endowed. Each and every one is endowed with Buddha nature. So I often say, you start out as a 5% Buddha. We say all beings are Buddhas. Means everyone is endowed with this 5% Buddhahood.
Let's sit for a few minutes more now and that 5% Buddha, everybody's got it. In our meditation course, we encourage people who attend, our students, to do at least 5 minutes of practice on a regular basis each day. 5 minutes, because 5 minutes counts. So let's do 5 minutes right now. You are a seeker. Prepare yourself with your posture of intent. Taking some breath. Deep breath, so we feel it. Feel your body. Full body. And then, as you go to the practice that you do, perhaps counting breaths, awareness of breathing, asking, what is it that keeps me going on? It will be normal that your mind wanders. Without judgment, simply come back again. It's wonderful embodiment. Touching your spine and chin down as joy is present with whatever your attitude is feeling. Then let the eyes be present, always practicing presence. And this one. Moving in the position, practicing presence. So that the whole nervous system through the spine is engaged. Really turning to the other side. And turn again. Feel present. Touch it absolutely. And turn in this direction. One of our Dharma teachers, Kusa, who is currently working as a Buddhist chaplain at Davidson College in North Carolina, and is visiting us here for 5 days. He's going to give the talk today. He started here in 2010, and he was going to move to Michigan. And he left here to do more education in Colorado. And then got this chaplainship. Amazing expertise. It's one of the just a couple of sort of little anecdotes. One of the things that when he was here, he was our choir master. That's when he had a choir and would almost sing every other service or so, because we have a lot of beautiful Buddhist songs that one of our former residents and the teachers had composed. And besides that, he is sort of an inveterate traveler. He's just recently been over to where is that? Nepal and Kathmandu. And he likes to go on pilgrimages to visit Buddhist places and temples and even today he's going to be talking with us about the Buddhist precepts. So please come over and let's just welcome street name Ivan von Meyerhofer. today?
Yeah, there is a microphone.
Okay.
Somebody forgot to use it. I won't say who. Well, I know it's on. Can you hear me? If I speak maybe a little bit up? Do I need to hold it in front of my face? Huh? In the center. Oops, sorry. Like that? Okay. Is that okay? We used to have these Buddhist birthdays, and Bobby would always make the best chocolate cake.
He still does.
And so that's all I cared about Buddha's birthday. I was like, where's the chocolate cake? The Buddha birthday, whatever, chocolate cake day.
A chocolate cake day can be any day.
Chocolate cake, because every day is Buddha's birthday. So, a chocolate cake.
5%.
Thank you. But it's wonderful to see you both. And everyone else, it's really wonderful to see you too. But I really don't care about both of you. So my name is Kusa, pronouns he, him, his. I am from here, in a sense, I'm also from Southern California and Colorado and from many different places. And I'm Buddhist chaplain, meditation director, and interfaith coordinator at Davidson College. Which sounds like a lot, feels like a lot. But today I'm just here as one of you practitioners and to talk about precepts. So before we talk about precepts, because y'all been sitting here next to people and probably haven't said hi to anybody, I do this a lot with the groups that I work with. So just take a moment to think about something that went well for you today, maybe yesterday. What day is it? It's like Sunday, I think. So something that went well for you this weekend, you're like, oh, that was great. Maybe something that just uplifted you. I hope you have something like that. So just take a moment to get that in mind. And then just find somebody next to you and tell each other your names, if you're comfortable, your pronouns. And then just what went well for you today. Giving and taking space so that everyone has a chance to speak. Just a minute or two, get to know who's around you. If you're online, yes, that's right.
You can stand up. I had some friends over on Friday night. My friend Ekin is going back to Turkey on Monday, so we had to go out late. We had a lot of that was over at my house. Yeah. And then it was a nice relaxing day yesterday. We headed to Martha, so I went to the market. That was a nice day. And then just hit the Yeah.
Make sure everyone has had a chance to share. 30 more seconds.
When I lived closer,
Yeah, and I also just appreciate you bringing the
yeah, the turnips look really good.
All right. Thank you for coming back together and for doing that. And also, Bobby didn't say anything about this, but there was somebody else who used to live in the temple. He used to make really good juices. And then every time I would see him, I'd be like, you make the best juice. And he's like, you know, Kusa, I'm more than the guy who makes juice. I said, I think I know that. So Bobby, I know
5%.
Yeah. Sorry. So we have until 11:30. I would love to hear some things that went well with everybody, but we have some time. I would like to keep talking, so I just hope that you checked in with somebody, got to know their name, and just say hello to somebody. So we're going to talk about precepts today, and we'll just go through various stages of talking about them. It's in terms that lets me off the hook if I don't want to come up with too much. This is like core Buddhist canon in a sense, practice. But hopefully it'll make it a little interesting for you, you know. The kind of cause celebrate for this is we are entering precept taking season. And so we're going through a cycle of people taking precepts, sometimes for the first time, sometimes renewing their precepts, culminating in a ceremony in the summer, usually around July 3rd or 4th, I believe it's going to be this year, July 4th, where people take precepts and then you receive a funny name, like Pusa or something like that. And you take refuge in all sorts of stuff. Okay, so we're going to start with a story, just to set the context. This story was posted, it's a Zen koan called Bird's Nest Roshi. This particular rendition of it was posted by Josho Pat Thalen, who I had the opportunity to meet with Haju, actually when Haju came out to North Carolina in May. And we got to see, we went out to see her, and very kind of venerable teacher, but so was Haju. So it was wonderful just to see them navigating the Zen space together and lighting incense and just these just beautiful old swans, you know, doing their things. It was really beautiful. There is a story about a Chinese Zen master who was called Bird's Nest Roshi. He got this name, I should just say, make sure you're all comfortable, because we're going to be sitting for a little bit. Just make sure you're comfortable. Forget formality. There is a story about a Chinese Zen master who was called Bird's Nest Roshi. He got this name because he often meditated in a tree. One day, an eminent man who was both a governor and well-known poet paid him a visit, arriving while he was up in his tree. When the governor found him, he said, "What a dangerous seat you have up there in the tree." Bird's Nest Roshi replied, looking down at him, "Yours is more dangerous than mine." The governor said, "I'm the governor of this province, and I don't see what danger there is in this." Bird's Nest responded, "Then, sir, you don't know yourself very well. When passions burn and mind is unsteady, this is the greatest danger." The governor then asked, "What is the teaching of Buddhism?" Bird's Nest Roshi recited a verse from the Dhammapada: "Not to commit wrong actions, but to do all good ones, and keep the heart pure. This is the teaching of all Buddhas." When the governor heard this, he was not impressed and said, "Look, any child of 3 years old knows that." Bird's Nest said, "Any 3-year-old child may know it, but even an 80-year-old man cannot do it." It's the story of Bird's Nest Roshi. First question I have for you is, and then if you feel comfortable responding, I have to find my little book. What's something that you really feel like you should be doing? Don't worry about morality and others. Just like something you feel like you should be doing, and you don't because you're lazy, or because you have weakness of will, or because you're a human being, and you just don't do everything you think you should do. Just think about some things. And if you feel comfortable sharing, you know, yeah, listen. Yeah, shout it out. Huh?
Lost my teeth.
Floss your teeth. Oh, man, please floss your teeth. I didn't do that for years with that. Yeah, we'll do the passing around. But very quick, not only if you're floss. So floss your teeth.
Decluttering my basement.
Decluttering your basement. You want to do it, but you don't do it. Do you ever start and then stop?
Yes.
Yes. I've been cleaning my house for 5 years, starting and stopping, never actually completing it. Anyone else? Yeah.
Donating more to those who are less fortunate.
Donating more to those who are less fortunate. Yeah.
More in physical goods rather than goodwill is what I feel like I need to do.
Yeah. I hear that. Yeah. Oh, do you need the mic? Oh, yeah, just shout.
I just wanted to give you a fair showing. I would like to be better at
Like to do better about being honest about what you're feeling when you're feeling it. Yeah. Okay. One more, anyone like burning to tell us about something you? I can tell you a whole bunch of things. I mean, was that a hand? No. Okay. You know, not sleeping with the phone next to my head so that way I don't kind of grab it when I first come up. Not making little white lies about when I'm late to things. I love to do that. I love to show up late to things and then say, oh, that was something with the car. There was nothing with the car. There was nothing with the car. Oh, sorry, I was late. I got caught up doing something. Yeah, nothing. Okay, so there's a lot, and those are just total flat out lies. And so now I've made the other, just total lies to other people. I know it too afterwards. I do that. I don't know when I'm doing it sometimes. Sometimes I know I'm going to do it. I tell myself not to do it, and then I do it anyway. So let's keep that in mind. That ties in with process version. And I do hope that when we talk about it all together, you realize we're all kind of like that. To like greater or lesser extent, It's not a big deal. It's called being human. Being human is complicated. When I say the word morality or ethics, usually people cringe. When I say the word morality or ethics, what comes to mind? And I'll repeat out for the benefit of other people, but what comes to mind when I say morality or ethics? And really, it can be positive, negative, whatever you want to say. Yeah.
Rules.
Rules. Which means you can be punished. You broke a rule. So rules.
I'm more thinking of a friend of mine who has strong rules for themselves and really for nobody else. They're
Right.
a very different belief system than mine.
Yeah.
But I look up to them as well.
Okay. Strong rules for themselves, nobody else. But rules. What else about morality?
Sounds like perfection to me.
Sounds like perfection, right? Like, am I getting that bar? I should do better.
Right.
Or and then failing.
Right.
It sounds like authenticity, being an authentic human being,
Yeah.
and you got morals and ethics.
Yeah. That's kind of like what Sunam was saying, authentic, true, sincere person, right? But
States of the mind and the heart.
faith, the mind, and the heart. Faith of the mind and the heart. Oh, yeah, I thought. Spiritual fitness. Kind of like spiritual fitness. Like, no, but spiritual fitness. Kind of. Would you use the word discipline in there? Okay. Spiritual fitness. There's a range of ways of thinking about morality and ethics. Sometimes it does get used as a perfectionist, right? And that I like to think in Buddhism, in a lot of our practice, nothing is like good or bad in itself, right? How you approach it. Sunam, in some of his talks, would start out saying, the snake that drinks water turns it into poison. The cow drinks water, turns it into milk. So what is the water? Neither poisonous nor milk, right? So how you use it, it matters a lot. It's kind of cultivating that because morality could become like a bludgeon and it can hurt. And it can be something we then cultivate inside. And it can become, perfection can become just a weighing down. But perfection, in terms of the perfections, like the paramitas, perfections of generosity, can be a cultivation of a heart practice that creates an authentic person. What that means, it takes a little bit of unpacking. It's like sincere part of your heart and your mind. It's a kind of spiritual fitness. So how you work with morality, how you work with precepts, Shila, is really important because it's not just a given that it's going to be helpful. It could be not helpful. And the start of this talk is not meant to scare anybody away. So let's hopefully that there's a helpful part. So keep in mind some ways that you think about precepts. That's just to kind of get you thinking about it. And then I'm going to go through just some brief notes on how I would understand precepts from a Buddhist perspective. And then we're going to work on one together after we read them together. Okay. So the first thing to keep in mind is precepts is part of, Buddhist practice is a threefold training. It's called the Trishiksha of Shila, Shila morality, Samadhi meditation, and Prajna wisdom. Okay, so it's meditation, ethics, morality, and wisdom. Most of you engage this temple through meditation, I imagine. It is a fact that the majority of Buddhists in the world do not meditate in the way that we do meditation, or the way you probably think of meditation. That is a predominantly modern, almost exclusively product of white convert Buddhism that comes post-colonialism. The majority of Buddhists, it's devotional practice and it's morality. And I say that for various reasons. It is really important to me in my practice that I work to undo a kind of Asian erasure that has predominated our practices, so that we understand that the way we have learned to do practices is not actually the way the majority of Buddhists do them in the world. When I talk with some other friends of mine, like a Vietnamese monk friend, and he says, how often do you talk about precepts? If I say anything less than every week, he's like, what are you doing over there? Okay. I'm not saying we have to be like Fokai Tai at the Vietnamese people. I'm just saying it's good to know that Buddhism is a threefold training. Morality is, if not important, it is essential to the practice. Sunim's saying it's not only just essential in a way, some might say that in Sunim's talk, before he gets into that whole passage about how morality is important, that passage we read is basically, if you're not practicing Shila, you're not actually practicing meditation. Before that, in the paragraph before that, Sunim says, meditation practice is like that. And there was a poem right above. Even just come and practice, you could be just daydreaming the whole time. We do that a lot. Relaxation, that's a good thing. Stress reduction is a good thing. There are medical benefits, but we as Buddhists have a higher purpose. We don't just practice meditation. I mean, there are side benefits, relaxation and stress reduction, but we have a higher purpose, which is to wake up. So if you're not practicing Shila, you're probably just daydreaming. Or Hudru told me a story once about how somebody said, how's that dream yoga doing over there? So we want to make sure we're waking up to our ethical being, which is part of our meditation practice. It's about compassion, right? Deep compassion. Okay, so I won't belabor that point a little more. How do you use them before we actually read them? How do we work with precepts? So what's the difference in terms of how we work with them here? Let me see if I thought we should probably read them right now. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, so let's read the precepts together. If you haven't heard them, I'm going to read through our precepts. So the aim of this is like, well, how do we work with them here that maybe is slightly different, so that it can really inform your meditation practice, so that it can inform, and when I say meditation practice, I actually mean you're living in interdependence with people and all beings around you. This is just part of meditation practice here. Meditation practice is driving in your car. It's saying hello to the people next to you. It's, do you know your neighbor? It's, are you aware of the bugs and the trees? You know, it's all sorts of stuff. Like students, I say, do you know the person who's cleaning your toilets? Have you said hi to them ever? You know, stuff like that. That's meditation practice. Okay, so for this one, let's just sit a little bit, just, you know, prepare yourself that you're going to hear something that might be important. And I'm going to read through our 8 precepts. Okay, and then we'll talk a little bit about them. We're going to work with one. So 8 precepts. 1, I resolve to abstain from doing harm, but to cherish all life. 2, I resolve to abstain from taking what is not given, but to respect the things of others. 3, I resolve to abstain from engaging in sexual misconduct but to practice purity of mind and self-restraint. 4, I resolve to abstain from lying, but to speak the truth. I clearly don't. I resolve to abstain from partaking in the production and trading of firearms and chemical poisons. 6, I resolve to abstain from wasting, but to conserve energy and natural resources. 7, I resolve to abstain from harboring enmity against the wrongs of others, but to promote peace and justice through nonviolent means. 8, I resolve to abstain from clinging to things that belong to me, but to practice generosity and the joy of sharing. Okay. Let me just say a couple quick things, not everything I was going to say, just to wrap up, and then I'd like to give us some time to work together. I think for me, what the precepts, and I don't know if this was like it when I first started, I just know that how I am now, is that it just gives me a way of looking at my life so that I can practice with it and not get bogged down by it. Like the little lying that I do when I show up late to things. If I didn't have the precepts, I probably wouldn't notice that. And whatever that habit of mind is, would just grow and would grow and would grow. So precept practice, for me, it's like an engagement. It's a deep engagement with my life. Can that venture verge into a kind of like, oh, I'm failing? Yes, it can. So but before we get to that, at first, what it does is it just opens up a window into certain habits of mind that maybe I wasn't so familiar with that were happening. And then by taking on precepts, I'm deciding to move in a direction of greater compassion. That I don't abuse the person in front of me by treating them as a means to an end, a means to my desire to just show up whenever I'm going to show up and lie to them. Like they're not a human being. I wouldn't want to be lied to. So it's a compassion practice. I was talking with somebody else the other day about veganism, vegetarian, different ways we relate to food. And the person was like, well, some lives matters more than others. This was actually vegan. I was like, well, yeah, but maybe we can push ourselves to see that all life matters, but then it becomes complicated, right? Little bugs matter. You kill bugs when you're a vegan, vegetarian. So it's more complicated, right? It just pushes us in a direction of complication and care. 2, the other thing it does for me is it helps me realize how hard it is to do this work. Like cleaning my kitchen. It's been sitting, like every day I'm about to start and I don't start. Or the line, like I know, and then something comes up, something that's much deeper than me, redirects my action. And I think I'm working with this. And so I have to give myself a lot of compassion and care because I've chosen this path. And then I think how much so other people who are also working with this. We're all just striving in a way, and we're all got a lot of stuff going on. And so ideally it helps me see other people with a more compassionate mind. I don't want to lie to you, whoever you are. I don't want to harm you because you're precious, just as you are. So precepts like a compassion practice. So how do you curb what happens if you start getting into this perfectionism mentality? Another thing about precepts in our Buddhist communities is that they are community work. when you do the precept process, you come together as a group and you discuss them together, right? When you take precepts, you take them with a preceptor. In a more ideal case, you would always meet with your preceptor, or you would come together as a community regularly to talk about how we're doing it, to kind of move us back in the direction of compassion and care. So precepts it's an engagement, it's an inquiry. It gives you a different lens of how to live your life. That's going to open up some things. Like when we teach meditation, or when I teach it, I often say to students, you think meditation is going to make you feel better? Just wait till you start looking. You're probably going to see things you don't want to see. So you have to really bring in care and compassion. So it helps to bring things up. But then when you do that, you can say, oh, I just need to work a little bit. Knowing from the beginning that because we're coming into it with so much energy, so much habit, so much karma, that it just, little bit, we just help each other, little bit. So it's community work, it's engagement, it's inquiry, and ultimately it's what Martine Batchelor in the book has called, in the Dalai Lama, and Thich Nhat Hanh, maybe I have mentioned this before, but it's a path of compassion. Meditation, compassion internally, compassionate relationship, self. Shila, compassion outside with everybody else around us. It's all an ecology of compassion. And so precepts is essential to that work. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, we have 5 minutes left. Just as a quick example of this, I figured we'd pick a less controversial one. Sorry. Which is, I resolve to abstain from wasting, but to conserve energy and natural resources. And the bare question is just, how do you relate to that in your life? Don't worry about, are you doing it well or bad or good or whatever? Just, how do you relate to abstaining from wasting and conserving energy and natural resources? Would anyone like to share? Yeah. And then maybe this time, because it might be a little longer. If you feel comfortable saying, the last responses were very quick responses. If you want to say your name this time, it's useful for us to hear your name. On the right. Yeah. Mo? No.
They can go first.
Hi, my name is Chai. This is one that I think about a lot, and one that causes me, I guess, a lot of suffering and a lot of sadness, because I've lived in ways before where I feel like I've been able to forage a lot, and I've been able to be more self-sustaining, and it's felt really good and helped me feel more in touch with myself and the things around me. And I think when I think about this now, I kind of consider sometimes the limitations of where you live and how conducive they are to being mindful of consumption. So I kind of try to find this balance between mindfulness and also acknowledgement of some circumstances that I've been kind of societally coerced into living in, and trying to strike a balance there while being gentle with myself, but also trying to be mindful and striving towards what I think is right at the same time. But it can be really difficult, and it can cause me a lot of sadness sometimes.
A couple over here. So let's do 2 and 2, and then we'll finish off.
I guess for me personally, I struggle with just like, I practice this so hard to the point that it's honestly to my own detriment a lot of the times. Because like, I feel like my choices in like affect the world far more greatly than they do, I guess. I sometimes make it and like end up feeling like the weight of my choices, like whether or not I keep the lights on and whether or not I use the disposable and things like that. I feel like it affects the whole world. And like, so often I think so strongly about it, but then I also resent other people when they don't take the same level of extremity that I do. And I guess what I've been needing to learn is how to take a step back and thinking, the fact that I forgot the light on at home is not going to destroy the world. and I shouldn't be so hard on myself or others about it because it's not making anybody a happier person by going so far with a good thing.
I'm Kat, she, her, hers, and it brings to mind, I have this in my basement, that's where the laundry is, and the light for the basement is like all the way at the back of the basement, and when I walk in, I'm like, I don't want to go all the way to the back to turn this light on. And I'm also usually thinking about how laundry is so annoying. So I'm like, I might as well just leave the light on the whole time. So I just leave the light on and don't turn it off. And I think but then I do when I walk in, I'm like, this is really bad. You know, I should turn this light off. But then I just kind of put it out of my mind. And so I think it's sort of, that's kind of how I feel about morality too, where I'm like, morality is just, you know, I should do it, but I'm really busy focusing on these other things that are really important. And so just being aware of that and being aware that I do have a choice to maybe put a light near the door.
Because it's 11:30, I'm just gonna, we'll have time to discuss more. Without running too far over, I just say two quick things to wrap up around this. Because it's really important. I've had just a lot of powerful conversations around climate and social justice and how this fits in schools, students I work with, and work that I do outside of the temple. Buddhism is a threefold training: morality, wisdom, meditation. For what? End of suffering. Right? Complete end of suffering, awakening for all beings. Sunim has this very catchy phrase, suffering is optional. So the reason why I bring that up is because when you engage in any of these practices, or you do any kind of Buddhist practice, you really got to check yourself and say, am I suffering more as a result of these practices? Then you probably need to change something. The aim of the practice is the end of suffering, not the accumulation of more suffering. So just keep that in mind. Precept practice is that way. That's the curve on the perfectionism. So always need that self-reflection. I think I'll just finish with that, actually, because that's really all that we need to hear. Are there any, well, I guess just as a quick thing, there are precepts starting. Unfortunately, you don't have to deal with me anymore. But there are two wonderful people on our Sangha that are running the precept classes. I think that's probably going to come up in the announcements. Jagwa, who's one of our teachers, and Mo Sam, who's in our seminary training program. And they run a kind of working together in community to talk about precepts and to work through your understanding through them over time. I believe they'll start in a couple weeks. There's going to be another information session after Sunday and the Thursday evening classes. So next Sunday, I believe there's an information session, and then there are Thursday evening classes that run for 5 weeks or so. That's the second part. So the second part, I do want to say this actually. You do a lot of prostrations and as part of the build-up to the practice. Why do I mention that? The reason why I started with that first question about what's something you really want to do, you just don't do because you get lazy or something like that. Buddhism about end of suffering. 2, you do not have to become moral. That's not the Mahayana perspective. Mahayana perspective is you're already Buddha nature. We just sometimes fail to do the things that we know that we should do. It's really an energetic thing. It's not like a qualitative difference. You're not a bad person or a good person. You're a human being, and that's amazing. And we also got a lot of jump, and we got to work at it. So precept practice is not like you have to become a good person. You're already a human being. Forget good and bad. But sometimes we have to work a little bit energetically to move ourselves in a direction that ends suffering. That's precept work. Precept work is not becoming something other than who you are, but it's the encouragement to become who we are, that authentic person. Right? So that's our precept work together. Announcement?
College.
Khalid is doing that.
Bueno. Yeah, I feel like that precept is the easiest for me. I feel like I'm a very efficient person as an engineer speaking. But I feel like the problem with me is I can judge people on it. So if you're not finishing your dish or whatever, it's horrible. Yeah, for events you can find the events here in this paper. There is an old song service on March 10 and April 14 around this time, and it's for all ages. And there are retreats. There's a half-day retreat on March 9th, and there is an introductory meditation course that's in Thursday nights, and yoga classes, study groups, and there are special events like Buddha's birthday, which happens on May 19th. But yeah, and anything else you'd like to mention? Recovery Dharma.
Recovery Dharma at noon in the historic Buddha Hall next door.
What, Tommy? Yeah, Mindful Transitions also at noon. Next door in the Sangha House, next door at the Sangha House, in the conference room.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Tommy is also somebody who I know from a long time ago. Is there like a work practice after? Is that
You just say you have a together action, and we're going to try to arrange our temple stay program, because people come and stay at the temple quite a lot these days for a few days, even for a few weeks. And so we want to get all of our sheets and pillow slips and into a system so that we know which ones are dirty when people have left, and we know how to get them back on and all that. If you're interested in helping with getting that 15 minutes today to start getting organized. It doesn't require more than 2 or 3 people. Who would be really interested in that? Michael, okay.
Please come up afterwards when we're at that.
Logic, okay.
I will say I have a perfect technique. I think that will help.
Okay, thank you for having me today. I think we're going to stand up and make.
Yeah, let's do the 4 great vows.
We'll do the 4 great vows. So we'll do the 4 great vows. If you feel comfortable, please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
So please fix your mat and cushions and your space and face the altar. We'll make 3 vows.
So we appreciate your help in picking up the room. Mats and cushions settling the carpet can stay on this side of the room. Mats and cushions go on the stage on that side in the back corner. And I see it's done this before, so those you can provide guidance to us.